March of the Machine is officially here. Jake and I have gone through the entire set and picked out our favorite commander cards that we can't wait to play with. We talked through our picks last Wednesday on our stream. Make sure that you come hang out Wednesday nights around 9 p.m., 9:30 p.m. Eastern. That's when we are live every single week, and we'd love to see you there. If you were there live for this one, leave a comment down below. I was there, baby. Otherwise, give me just a second to thank our Patreon members, and we'll be right back with the discussion.
Highest level of gratitude to our patrons who power the channel through Patreon. Check out the Patreon link in the description to learn about monthly giveaways, VIP Discord access, and even our official playmat.
Favorite commander cards from March of the Machine. Jake and I have pulled a group of cards here. We kind of don't know what each other's picks are. Obviously, no. I had to pull all these for this video. To make this video, chat here, y'all can help us. Tell us whether you like our picks or not. Viewers after the fact, tell us whether you like our picks or not in the comments. Let's start off. Jake, we actually both picked this one.
Yeah, it's because it's just very good.
Hoarding Broodlord is a black 5/7/6, but don't worry, it's got Convoke, which means your creatures can tap to cast this, either for a generic one or for a color that they are. So you could potentially, if you have 8 creatures with at least 3 black creatures on the battlefield, cast this just by tapping all your creatures, not even tapping any land. It's got flying, and when it ETBs, you search your library for a card, exile it face down, then shuffle. For as long as that card remains exiled, you can play it, and it gives that spell Convoke. This card is bonkers.
Yeah, it's really good. It's just very good. What we know about Convoke, it's very good. It's one of these things that whenever you're able to reduce the cost of something and get it earlier, people explore that. I think that this card is pretty nutty, dude. And the fact that once it's removed, I mean, the card already has that clause on it after you've tutored it. For as long as this card remains exiled, you may play it. So even if the Hoarding Broodling gets removed, I do believe you're still able to cast that card, correct?
Correct. You just won't be able to Convoke it. To have the ability spells you cast from exile have Convoke. The Broodlord, not the Broodling. This guy's a lord. He is no ling.
Oh, Broodlord. Did I say Broodling?
Broodling. You undermine his title.
Well, it's a good thing I don't live in that world that it lives in.
That's a good thing for many different reasons. Jake, everybody watching, turn your head sideways.
I skipped over so many of these because I didn't want to click on them and have to read them.
Dude, battles number 1 aren't, in general, the battles aren't that great for commanders. Yeah. Some of them are decent, but dude, I was in this same boat, skipping these things just because I didn't want to turn my head sideways. Invasion of Innistrad. I'll do this one, Jake.
Sure.
2 black, 2 other for a 5. What do you call it? Health battle. It's got flash.
This one's fine. I'll go ahead and read it because this was my pick. Yeah, whenever Invasion of Innistrad enters the battlefield, target creature an opponent controls gets -13 until end of turn. And then it has 5 damage essentially that you need to do to it in order to flip it. And then you get the other side, which is Deluge of the Dead. Now this card is pretty sweet because you're able to exile stuff from a graveyard to build your board. And it's an enchantment, which we all know that I love enchantments, which is the reason that this card made the list. But when it enters the battlefield, create 2/2/2 black zombie creature tokens. So just simply for entering, you're getting 4 power, and then you do have the ability to, you know, target things from people's graveyards, build your board, target from your own graveyard if it means getting a 2/2. It's just a pretty good card. I think it's good.
Yeah, repeatable graveyard.
It does have flash, which is sweet, which is important, and because I mean, it's a tragic slip.
Yeah, right. 4 mana flash, kill anything, pretty much, even indestructible stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a solid removal spell with a Deece graveyard hater, and it creates 2 tokens. Elish Norn. I can't remember if you had this in your picks. I definitely had this one in my picks.
I almost cut all of these just because we were going to talk about the Praetors, but since we're not, I guess it's okay for them to appear in here. I'll just say this about them before you read it.
Sure.
They're all just very good.
Yeah.
They're all
5
really
of
good.
the Praetors that flip are generically good. Especially
nutty.
The backside is nutty on most of them, but they're all generically good for a lot of different strategies. Elish here's 4 mana with white 2, Vigi 3/5, Phyrexian Praetor. When a source of an opponent controls deals damage to you or a permanent you control, that source's controller loses 2 life unless they pay 1. And then it's got 3, sacrifice 3 creatures. You exile it, then you return it transformed at sorcery speed into the Argent Etchings, which is chapter 1, incubate 2 5 times. So that's create 5 artifact incubator tokens that all have pay 2, flip this into a creature, and you put 2+1/+1 counters on it. That's what that 2 means. Then you transform them all. So you don't even have to pay the 2. You just create 5 2/2s pretty much, and that is chapter 1. Chapter 2, all of those get +1/+1 and gain double strike until in a turn.
It's enough to end a game right there.
Brutal.
That's just nuts. Yeah.
Especially, I mean, you're building this into a deck where you can sacrifice the 3 creatures on the front. So you already got an Aristocrats thing going. You're creating a bunch of tokens, and then you got a bunch of tokens all on the battlefield. You give them +1/+1 double strike, you're winning. And if that doesn't do it, destroy all other permanents except for artifacts, lands, and Phyrexians, then exile it, and it just turns right back into Elish.
Yeah.
It doesn't even go anywhere. Generically good. You can see the value. This one I put in here specifically because token strategies with sacrifice synergies are already so brutal that this just complements those strategies so strongly. Shieldred, also on the list.
Yeah, same thing. 2 black, 3 other for 4 or 5 minutes. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent sacks a non-token creature or planeswalker, and then for 1 black and 4 other, you can exile it, then return it to the battlefield transformed.
You gotta have 8 or more cards in an opponent's graveyard. That's the prerequisite for Shieldred on this one.
Yeah, that's right. But then the backside of the card again is very good. For each opponent, destroy up to 1 target creature or planeswalker that player controls. Then the second part, each opponent discards 3 cards, then mills 3 cards. I mean, that's pretty busted. Each player each opponent discarding 3. Then put all creature cards from all graveyards onto the battlefield under your control. Exile the true scriptures, then return it to the battlefield, front face up. So then you get Shieldred right back, and you get essentially a Patriarch's bidding for everything.
Right. I love that she has and enters the battlefield as well. So when it flips back over, you get more value out of it, and you just kind of keep the pain train rolling. Pretty brutal one. Loving these. I think the whole cycle is sweet. These, by the way, are in no particular order. So these aren't really ranked in the order that they come. Next up, Jake, I mean, we got the big dumb red enchantment of this set, except it's got Convoke. So it doesn't even have to be big very dumb. Good. It's like cheated out. If a source you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals triple that damage instead.
I would play it even without Convoke, but that's how bad a player I am. I like it even if it doesn't have Convoke. It's just, I mean, Fiery Emancipation comes to mind. These are the kind of cards that people like to play with. I mean, and even if you're not running a ton of creatures, even if you just use your commander and maybe 1 other creature to convoke this out for, 6 instead of 8. And if you're running a pile of mana rocks, that could still be a big deal. This makes everything that you have 3 times as threatening. Yeah. Let's just say that.
Jetmir is actually, Pack Opening Addict said Jetmir appreciates this. Jetmir is actually the commander I was going to bring up with this one, because you want a bunch of creatures on the battlefield. They're able to convoke. Jetmir is growing your line. This is tripling the damage they do. There's just so many decks that want this, and Convoke makes it more approachable in that deck. And so I just think that this one is going to be one that, we look in a year and a half and we're like, wow, that's a $20 card now. That's a $15 card now.
What is it right now?
It's like $5 right now. Market price extended, $5. It's like a $4 card for the copy you're looking at right here. This is one that I really think is going to go up over time. And then we built this one last week on stream. We got a video breaking down this commander, building our own community deck version of it, and playtesting it. It's Etali.
Yeah, this card's really fun. It is big mana, but it's in the colors for big mana: red, green. 1 or 2 red, 5 other for 7/7 trample. When Etali Primal Conqueror enters the battlefield, each player exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card. You may cast any number of spells from among the non-land cards exiled this way without paying their mana cost. So this is one of those cards that's really annoying to play on spell table because you could be getting creatures and stuff. I like it because it reminds me of Wand of Wonder. It reminds me of Chaos Wand.
Yeah.
It's a card like that. And then for 9 and 1 green Phyrexian mana, you could transform. You get Primal Sickness, which is Blightsteel Colossus on the other side. So the card does everything it needs to. Just ramp to it and win with it. I love it as a commander. I think it's good in the 99 as well. Yeah, I mean, there's some people that have been talking about playing this in Samut and blinking it. Just like it's a very, like, you don't even need the back of the card. I think the front of the card is good by itself, but the back of the card is just nuts.
Yeah, this is the kind of card you can put in your deck, and when people go, what's your win con in this deck? You go, oh, it's Etali Primal Sickness. And they're like, oh, yeah, that'll win you a game. Enough said. Got it. Jake, you threw this one on the list.
I think that this is a pretty sweaty card, even at sorcery speed. I just like it because it says can't be countered and it hates blue and white stuff. And so I think that even though it hits dorks, this was almost a cut for me because it hits dorks. If you're not playing against anybody with blue and white, you could just kill that. But if you are playing against blue and white, it's a pretty good card. I like that it's very cheap, but it's not that great.
Creature
it's okay.
Or planeswalker. Matt Corrales said it. It hates blue and white, so it's EDH. This is the kind of uncommon that people will explore in the higher power, sweatier formats.
The only thing that holds it back is it's not instant, but it doesn't, in my opinion, because it can't be countered, it doesn't really need to be. It's just very cheap removal in red. Just 1 red to deal 5 to a white or blue thing that can't be countered could mean the difference.
This feels so much like they just didn't have enough room on the text box, but I want this to say choose one. Its first ability here deals 1 damage to target creature player, or 5 if it's a white or blue, or destroy target artifact. And I'm like, holy shit, this is an excellent utility piece that's going to be ongoingly used forever. That kind of piece being absent from it, or like doing 2 to a creature, just the 1 is kind of tough to wrap your head around. But I do agree, man. I think that this is one to keep an eye on. You know, it is another one of those types of cards. It's got potential. Urabrask making its way into the list as a Praetor. And in my opinion, this is one of the strongest cards in the entire set. I've argued with some people on Twitter about that. Some people have said this is absolutely crap, but I just don't understand how you can read this card and say that's crap. It looks busted as all hell. Red 2 for a 4/4 Phyrexian Praetor. Burst Striker. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, it deals a damage to an opponent and you add a red mana. Then, for 1 red mana, you exile it, return it, only if you've cast 3 or more instant or sorcery spells this turn. But remember, your instants and sorceries are adding mana to your mana pool. It flips into 3 damage to an opponent and each creature they control, then 3 treasure tokens, then until in a turn you can cast instants and sorceries from your graveyard. If a spell cast this way, it gets exiled. And then it flips back over into Urabrask. This one, just the front side. The back side is obviously not as like game-ending impactful as the other Praetors, but the front side is better, in my opinion, than the other Praetors. All of your instants and sorceries are pinging and adding a mana back in. You can just storm like crazy with this Urabrask. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty fun card. I'm a fan of it as well. I think that in constructed, it might be a little more difficult to really get the most out of the card because it is 4 mana. So getting to it and then having a bunch of cantrips afterwards play, that might be a little bit more difficult. And I'm talking about sweatier formats like, you know, Pioneer or Modern. Once you get to 4, you need to be closing out the game a lot of the time. And so I don't know if it lives there. You know, Storm hasn't even really been at the forefront of Modern for a while. You know, I don't even know the last time that Storm's been a deck. So
David
yeah,
Peacock
it is a pretty cool card.
Asks a really good question, and it is important to point this out on this card. Until end of turn, you can cast instants and sorceries from your graveyard, and if it would be cast, it gets exiled. But it finishes by saying exile it, then return it to the battlefield. So you've got the clause. You can cast instants and sorceries from any graveyard, by the way. Instants and sorceries from any graveyard. You've got that clause, and it flips back over to Urabrask so that every time you cast an instant or sorcery, it's dealing a damage and adding mana. So it gets really synergistic with itself by the end of the entire saga. It's so excellent. I want to go back one more time. It's so excellent to have an Urabrask card with art that just looks so dope. Because normally Urabrask art, you're like, what am I looking at? But here we're like, that thing is so sick.
It's like a lizard on a spire or something.
Yeah, with like the X23 claws coming out of its hand. Yeah, I just think that this is such a cool card, and I'm really excited to build it into stuff. Jake, Glistening Dawn.
Yeah, this is one of my picks. And at first I read it and I was like, I don't like much of the incubate stuff. But then I read it and I was like, well, shit, it's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
2 green, 2 other, first sorcery, incubate X twice, where X is the number of lands you control. And then to incubate X, create a incubator token with X 1/1 counters on it. And it has the transform like we've talked about. So if you are in big mana for 4 here, you could be getting a lot of value. And if you are playing, the usual suspects and stuff like doubling season, it's going to be even more degenerate. But yeah, it's a pretty good card. Yeah, I mean, if you do it late game, you could be getting
pretty big creatures.
Like pretty big. Yeah, pretty big is a good way to say it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how incubate moves forward as it gets explored well.
And this card is just stupidly good too.
Ozolith, bro. The first Ozolith is dope. This Ozolith, not quite as dope, but still really strong. Green and 1 for a legendary artifact. If 1 or more +1 counters will be put on an artifact or creature you control, that many +1s put on it instead. It's not doubling. It's not degenerate. It's very fair, but it's very strong. Then 2 mana, tap it, put a +1/+1 counter on target artifact or creature you control at sorcery speed. Read that. That means 2. And
I still believe that this is... Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say you can cycle it away. If you don't want it, you be done with it.
That's what really sold me on the card, dude. The cycling. Just being able to get rid of it to draw a card as well is always a good thing.
It's not crazy busted. It's very fair.
It gets crazy busted with other crazy busted stuff.
For sure.
That synergizes with it, that does similar things. It's just redundancy in a very popular archetype.
It's cheap.
Which is why it made the list.
2 mana.
Tim, you don't like it?
Add some counters.
Just not doing enough, maybe?
Tribute to the World Tree. I believe this one was just on my list. Or did you include this one as well, Jake?
I had it as well, yeah.
Tell us about Tribute to the World Tree.
Yeah, 3 green for an enchantment. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card if its power is 3 or greater. Otherwise, put 2 1/1 counters on it. So it's good or great. It's great or awesome. It's just generically just great enchantment to just sit on the battlefield and generate value.
It
and
adds
make
to
everything stronger.
All of those green enchantments that are like at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control a creature with power 3 or greater, draw a card. Or when a creature enters the battlefield with power 3 or greater, draw a card. It just goes right alongside all those enchantments, adds to the redundancy of those effects.
Yep.
You're growing your small stuff. And this is whenever a creature enters the battlefield. Selesnya tokens, how you doing? Selesnya tokens
get buff.
Creating 1/1s. Nope, you're creating 3/3s, dog.
I mean,
and if you've played token strategies, you know how big the difference can be between a line of 1/1s and a line of 3/3s.
Avenger of Zendikar and like a bunch of 3/4 plants or 2/3 plants coming out.
I love David Peacock's assessment of this. It seems very playable. Yes, correct.
Yes.
Plus you're drawing the cards if it's a big creature. I mean, it's everywhere you want to be.
Dude, I had no idea that this card was already like $70 pre-sale.
Well, it's 3 mana. I had no idea. 3 mana 4 Loyalty Walker is going to break out of just Commander. Going to break into constructed formats. Planeswalkers aren't super popular in Commander already, but this one
the reason for me that I put it on the list, I don't know, did you put this on?
I didn't put this on because typically I skip over the planeswalkers unless they're like absolutely game breaking. I can win the game if I can pull the thing off. And casting lands and permanent spells from the graveyard, it's a really strong emblem for sure, but it's not exactly going to win you the game by itself. But it adds to all the mana fixing. Perfect. It's like a Chromatic Lantern planeswalker.
Yeah, what's silly and what sold me on the card was I was like, this seems like a planeswalker that they have really pushed for Commander in a weird way. That lands you control, the +1, making a land of vigilance hexproof, 3/3 until your next turn, so it can protect Ren and Realm Breaker. It's got the mill 3, then you may put a permanent card from among the milled cards into your hand. It seems like it's got a lot going on. And so at 3 mana, I was like, I mean, clearly it's going to be played and constructed.
Yeah.
Anybody who doesn't mess around with this card, you could get this online as early as turn 2, dude. Yeah, man. I think it's going to be good either way.
I think the +1 on this, personally, I hate the +1 on this. I don't want to turn my lands into creatures that'll die from board wipe, and it leaves it as a creature once you've done that. Yes, it protects it, but you need to be playing this in like a heavy lands. You're ramping your lands out very, 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 very quickly. I love the -2 here. And people in chat, people that are watching this after the fact, let me know what you think about this. If you've ever built a deck where you want to self-mill to resurrect, those effects are fairly few and far between. You don't think that when you go, I want to self-mill so I can build a reanimator deck, you don't think you're going to have any, lack of self-mill effects, consistent self-mill effects to really pull that off. This is milling 6 cards and getting something back if you need it in the moment, and you're not just going to like animate dead on it or whatever. It will allow you to at least mill 6 cards. That's the one part of this that I like. I think that past that...
You don't like the +1?
As a passive mana fixer, I like it, but as the +1, it just... I don't like the danger of turning one of my lands into a creature and somebody goes, I'm going to play Dam, and suddenly...
Unless it's a Darksteel Citadel, right? Then you're good.
If you are turning a Darksteel Citadel into the 3/3 Vigilant Hexproof Haste Indestructible, yeah, okay, you got me.
Yeah,
that'll work.
Okay,
but
no, maybe so. Maybe I did kind of like overvalue this one. I was very surprised by the price, but I was like, you know what? I don't hate that +1, but I do see what you're saying. It just one of your lands or however many lands that you decide to do this with are just going to die to any sort of shenanigans unless you're protecting them. POA says it'll be sub $10 after release. Pack opening addict, do you think it's super overhyped?
We'll see where it ends up. See. Kagla and Yadaro, we have talked about this in our ranking tier listing duo commanders. If you haven't seen that video, go check it out. ETBs.
I just like it for the 99.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like such a good Gruul 99 card. 6 mana, 2 red, 2 green, 2 other 7/7 ETBs. It can either trample haste and get to work, or it can kill most of anything that's going to be on the board. 7/7 is killing most anything on the board and surviving. And then, if it's in your hand, you can pay 4, discard it, destroy an artifact or enchantment, shuffle it into your library, and then draw a card. So for 4 mana, you're gaining a card, you get this back into your library, and you're destroying an artifact or enchantment. This is a really good 99 card.
100%. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of this.
Yeah, plus, it's one of the best cards in the set for the 99, which is why it's on the list.
Do, you read my mind, dude. That creature type is interesting. Ape, dinosaur, turtle.
That's what are they holding there?
A Phyrexian. It looks like they're about to suplex a giant Phyrexian.
Oh, God.
Yeah, dude. Absolutely.
I'm happy that Yadaro got brought back.
Same.
Kind of sad that card never really did anything.
Kogla did things. Kogla did a lot of work.
Kogla does things. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm a big fan of that one. Did you have this one on your list, Jake? Or just me?
I did not.
Okay.
This is you.
5 mana sorcery that says exile all creatures. So you're paying 1 more than a generic board wipe and everything gets exiled. Then you incubate X. This is like Phyrexian Rebirth, except it's 1 mana less. It exiles all creatures instead of destroying them. And you get an X11 incubate token that for 2 becomes a creature. And you're ready to attack after a board wipe. So it does my favorite thing and what I constantly preach, which is it on the same turn that you board wipe starts reinvigorating your board.
Yeah.
I've seen variants of theories and opinions on this one from this is horrible all the way through this is bastardo.
Well, it's because the exile is what makes it worth considering, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, it's like just run a 4-cost board wipe.
Of course, or run Damn, which is a modular board wipe, or run Vanquish the Horde, which is a cost reduction board wipe.
Right.
The only reason that it is even on the list is it is a 5 mana exile all creatures, and it leaves you with board position after. It's just one of my favorite cards in the set. I'm a big fan. Artistic Refusal. You pulled this one, didn't you?
Oh, okay. I'm medium on this card. This was a maybe. This was a maybe pick, but I'm happy that you put it on the list. We can talk through it.
Absolutely. I'll talk the merits of this one with you. I like it.
Yeah, choose one or both. But I like that you can convoke this down.
That's the only reason you'd want it.
Well, obviously, yeah, that's the only reason you want it. But then choose one or both. So for essentially 2 blue mana, if you reduce this, you're countering target spell, then you're drawing 2 and discarding a card. That's a lot.
Or if you have 2 blue creatures, you can reduce it down to 0. Because you can convoke a mana that creature's color on too.
Yeah. So I mean, it could be good.
Yeah. Dosey Does nailed it here. Free counterspell alert. That's why so normally when we make these lists, I dig through the mythics, then the rares, and then I typically stop. Jake likes to go through the uncommons and make sure that we're covered on that aspect as well. And this one is a beautiful find for this because I'm tapped out, but I still have a counterspell in my hand because I have 6 creatures on the battlefield and at least 2 of them are blue, right? That is...
So maybe in like a Go Wide Flyers, something like that. It seems like a nice budget.
Dude.
Nice budget spell.
Millicent Spirits was one of the first decks I built last year. And that is go wide in the air with blue and white flyers.
K Spice says, I would choose both. Big brain play.
Absolutely.
I would prefer to not draw the 2 cards, please.
I'm going to counter your spell, but I don't need an extra card. What are you talking about?
And then the opponent says, well, yeah, because you're about to be milled.
David,
clearly you don't want to draw.
Your creature does not have to have haste or have summoning sickness off of it to participate in a convoke. You can use a summoning sick creature to participate in convoke. Like I was saying,
it's a condition of the card.
Correct, not of the creature.
Right.
Millicent Spirits was one of the first decks I played last year. Played it for like a month and a half. This is the exact kind of card that would gone in there. We're building. We're putting a lot of flying spirits on the battlefield. We got some random blue creatures in there that can pay for the 2 blue pips. You're filling back your hand after you're attacking, playing all your cards onto the battlefield. One of the weaknesses of a creature deck, you need to keep a hand full so you can keep a big board presence. I like this uncommon. I think it's a nifty little uncommon. As do I think this is a nifty little uncommon, and I think CEDH players are going to go,
It's pretty spicy, bro.
Counters
1 blue.
Counters Winota?
Yeah, 1 blue, 1 other. For change the equation, choose 1. Counter target spell with mana value 2 or less, or counter target red or green spell with mana value 6 or less. So it's good either way, man. I like it both ways.
Yeah.
And I like it in the sweaty format too.
I keep sort of a side eye on CEDH meta, and Winota's a really strong deck in that. And, being able to counter the Winota for a blue and 1, or have other options on there, You know, I'd have to go and see. I'm not a huge CDH like master by any means. And so I'd have to go and see how much like 1 mana interaction is there, and if there is a room for this. And yeah, you got Hugh Murphy there in chat saying Blue Elemental Blast doesn't see much play. This probably won't. So
but
it would have to fit into the meta.
Good casual commander card as well, though, because there's a lot of relevant targets, even if you're not playing against red or green, which you probably will be playing against red or green if you're playing some commander. So that's just like, it just seems like an easier.
Jake over here arguing for the counter spell in casual Magic, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, I know.
Chrome Host Seed Shark. This was one of my first picks, man. I love anything that lets you cast a spell, non-creature, and create a creature off of it. Kind of like Talrand. You know, you're casting instants and sorceries, you're getting 2/2s. This is similar to that for me. A blue and 2. Whenever you cast a non-creature, you incubate X, where X is that spell's mana value. So basically, you get a creature that for 2 more mana will be an XX based on the non-creature spell that you cost. And so
it's like Baby Sharknado, it's like Avika, it's like any of these spells that are going to allow you to get value by casting non-creature spells.
Right.
It's a great little piece.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of extra value off of your casts, and so this was definitely one that I looked at,
and it looks cool.
Yeah, I mean the art is cool. It's just
very weird.
Definitely a card I like. All right, everybody. Jake's gonna read this one to us. Everybody, turn your head to the left.
Oh, boo! All right. Whenever invasion of where is this? Arcavios?
That's Strixhaven. Strixhaven is the school, Arcavios is the plane.
Got it. Whenever Arcavios enters the battlefield, search your library, graveyard, and or outside the game for an instant or sorcery card you own. Reveal it and put it in your hand. If you search your library this way, shuffle. So I know that it's a little bit expensive, but the back of it just leads to degeneracy.
Yeah, if you're able to get the 7 damage on this thing and flip it into an enchantment that says whenever you cast an instant or sorcery from your hand, you get to copy it. Brutal. Ridiculous.
Yeah, and the front is allowing you to get like anything you want. So it's a very interesting front of the card as well, but it is an expensive tutor at 5 mana.
Yeah, it lets you look in your library, graveyard. Love that. You go get it even if you used it. Go get that critical one you need. Andrew Butterworth, I haven't read all the battles either because I'm an old man and I'm resistant to new things.
Andrew, I don't like reading them either. It's my least favorite thing about the set.
I'm all in favor of new card types, but man,
don't make me turn my head, please.
With the internet, me having to turn my head is a big bummer. We should complain to Joel. He should have changed the orientation on all of those cards so that we could have just read them easily. Yeah, I had plenty of stuff to do to prep for this one. I wasn't about to go through and resave PNGs.
Oh, come on.
C double. Blue 2 instant spell can't be copied. But you get to choose one, and if an opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard, which is going to be easily achievable, you can choose both. Copy a spell, you can choose new targets, or create a token that's a copy of target creature. I just think this is so much value. You obviously only want to cast it when you can do both things, but 4 mana, instant speed, so you can do it as a trick. Somebody goes to remove your thing. We're going to copy that spell, remove your thing as well, and we're going to create a token copy of the creature that you tried to remove and still have it. Suck it.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. I like that it says it can't be copied. Thank you. But
oh my god, dude.
greatly decreases the confusion.
Right. Well, I don't like I don't like to read, so I don't like complicated cards. So if this was able to be copied, I'd be like, nah, I'm good, thank you.
Yeah, we're good on that.
Too much. But
yeah, just a little too over the top.
This is such a shenanigans instant speed spell to me. I definitely wanted it on the list.
Yeah, it seems great in almost every blue deck, right?
Right. Yeah, very strong. And then we've got Zephyr Singer. Jake, did you see this one? I had this one on my list. 2 blue, 2 other, 3/4 Convoking Siren Pirate with flying and vigilance. Enters the battlefield, put a flying counter on each creature that convoked it. So you can turn 4 creatures permanently into flyers. Instant flying on 4 different creatures, bro, is all you need. I know you don't really like creature-based decks, but I'm telling you, this card can be a win con in the right conditions because suddenly your whole field is flying. And you can do this. Oh my God, dude. I am such a huge fan of this creature. It seems so pushed to me. I think a bunch of these Convoke cards we're going to look back on in like a year and go, ay, what were they thinking with this much Convoke? And all of these payoffs for Convoke. It was already good. You're already cheating stuff out for free. Why do we need all these additional payoffs?
Yeah.
But
you brought this up, the sorcerification of Magic the Gathering, where like everything now has an insane ETB on it.
Yes.
Yeah.
It all does.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to keep making cards. You're not going to run out of set with 3 3s for 3 and no other text.
Sadly. Yeah. It has to be like an 18-6 for 6 in order for people to be like, oh, all right.
Yeah,
it's something fine. Without text.
You can leave it.
Oh, and then this card, yes.
Archpriest of Shadows. This is the main one with backup that I really liked. Backup is a really good ability. You put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, and it can be this creature if you just want a +1 counter on it and you don't have a target. But if you put that +1 counter on a different target, it gets all of the abilities on the rest of this card until the end of turn. So it grants for 1 turn to a creature Death Touch, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player or battle, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Straight up. So you can get sneaky with it. We were just talking about, decks that have unblockable creatures to get through in a different video. Drop that +1 counter on a creature that says can't be blocked. Boom. You're returning a target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield straight up. It also gives it Death Touch, so it's de-incentivizing blocking. And then, at the end of the day, if you're not even able to get tricky with this is a 5/5 for 5 with Death Touch that says when it deals combat damage, return a creature from the graveyard to the battlefield. You still get that. This card is just bonkers to me.
Yeah, it's a pretty fun one. I like anything that's like graveyard to the battlefield is good when it doesn't get like exiled or anything like that. I like it.
Sure. Yeah, if it doesn't die to removal, it can do the thing. But I think that this one with that backup ability is going to allow you to sneaky do the thing at least one time with like your flyer, hit the person that doesn't have a flyer, with your trampler, hit the person that's tapped out with no board. I think that this one has a lot of potential. And that brings us back to Hoarding Broodlord. Let us know what your favorite commander cards are in this set. That was a big group of our favorites from our initial exploration of March of the Machine. Make sure you like and subscribe, all the YouTube stuff. We'll catch you later. Everybody in chat say bye, YouTube.
The Praetors that we didn't bring up, honorary mention because they're also good.
Yeah, they are also good.
Yeah, Vorinclex we didn't talk about, also good.
Gen Gataxius,
also good.
Generally the Praetors are strong.
They're generally strong.
Strong generally.